I found my husband's secret email account and read 3 years of messages that rewrote everything I thought I knew about my marriage. My name is Diana. I am 42 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and 11 months ago I found a second email account on my husband's laptop while I was looking for a receipt he had asked me to forward. The account was open in a browser tab he had not closed. I saw it for approximately 3 seconds before I understood what I was looking at, and those 3 seconds were the last 3 seconds of my marriage as I had understood it. My husband's name is Kevin. We had been married for 12 years and had 2 children. Emma, who is 11, and Jack, who is 8. Kevin was a project manager at a construction firm, reliable and organized, the kind of husband who remembered anniversaries and fixed things around the house without being asked. I had believed our marriage was good. Not perfect. No marriage is perfect, but good in the ways that I had been measuring. The email account contained 3 years of correspondence with a woman named Rachel, who I had met twice at company events and had thought nothing of. 3 years of emails. I did not read all of them that afternoon. I could not. I read enough to understand the timeline, the nature of the relationship, and the specific careful language of 2 people who have been conducting something they know is wrong for long enough to have developed a private vocabulary for it. I read enough to know that what I was looking at was not a mistake or a brief moment of weakness. It was a sustained parallel relationship with its own history and its own emotional logic that had been running alongside my marriage for 3 years. I closed the browser tab. I made dinner. I helped Jack with his homework. I put both children to bed. I did all of these things with Kevin present and functioning, and I said nothing because I needed to think before I spoke, and I needed to be certain about what I was going to do before I introduced information that would change everything. I spent 3 days documenting. I went back to the laptop when Kevin was not home, and I photographed specific emails. Not all of them. The ones that established timeline and nature with clarity that could not be misinterpreted. I sent the photographs to my personal email. I called my attorney on the 4th day, and we spent 2 hours going over everything. My attorney's name is Patricia, and she told me to continue documenting and to begin gathering financial information before I said anything to Kevin, because people sometimes move assets when they know a divorce is coming, and she wanted me to have a complete picture first. I spent 2 weeks building that picture. At the end of 2 weeks I had what Patricia needed, and I had what I needed to have the conversation I had been preparing for. I sat Kevin down on a Sunday evening after the children were in bed, and I put my phone on the table with one of the email photographs on the screen. Kevin looked at the photograph and went through the specific sequence of a person who has been discovered in something. The recognition, the calculation, the collapse into something that resolved as admission. He admitted everything. 3 years of everything. The divorce was filed the following month. It was finalized 8 months later. Emma and Jack are doing well in the specific careful way of children who are being managed through something difficult by 2 parents who have agreed that the children's well-being is the priority regardless of everything else. I have a new apartment. I have a garden on my balcony. I sleep through the night for the first time in the 11 months since I found that browser tab. And I think sleeping through the night is one of the better indicators available that you are in the right place. Update, 3 months later. Emma asked me last month what had happened between her father and me. She is 11 and she had been patient with the we grew apart explanation for 8 months, and had decided she was ready for more. I gave her an honest age-appropriate version. That her father had done something that had broken my trust, and that we had not been able to repair it. She was quiet for a moment, and then she said, was it his fault? I told her adult situations are usually complicated, and that what mattered was that both her parents loved her, and that would not change. She nodded and said okay, and then asked if we could watch something together. We watched something together. I held her hand on the couch, and I thought about 3 years of emails and about the couch and about her hand in mine, and I thought that this specific ordinary moment was what the past 11 months had been protecting, and that it was worth protecting. Story 2: Marital Affairs Stories. My wife had an affair with my best friend. They both told me on the same day without knowing the other was going to. My name is Thomas. I am 44 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado, and 2 years ago I received 2 confessions in the same day from 2 people I had trusted completely. My wife of 9 years and my best friend of 20 years, who had been involved with each other for 14 months and who each decided independently and on the same day to tell me what had been happening. The confessions arrived 3 hours apart. My best friend's name is Marcus. He called me at 11 in the morning and asked if he could come over, and I said yes because Marcus had always been welcome in my home. He sat across from me in my living room, and he told me he had done something he could not continue hiding, and that he was sorry in a way that told me before the specifics arrived that the specifics were going to be significant. He told me about my wife. He told me 14 months of what had happened between. He cried. He said he had been trying to end it, and had not been able to, and had finally understood that the only way to end it with any integrity was to tell the truth to the person who deserved to know it. He left my house at approximately 1 in the afternoon. My wife's name is Sarah. She came home from work at 4 in the afternoon, and she had apparently been building toward her own confession for days, without knowing Marcus had already made his. She sat down across from me, and she told me she needed to tell me something. I told her Marcus had already been there. The expression on her face in that moment is something I have thought about many times since. The specific look of someone who had been preparing to confess something, and has arrived to find the preparation was not necessary in the way they had expected. We talked for 4 hours that evening. Sarah's account and Marcus's account were consistent with each other, which told me that both of them had been honest with me rather than managing a version. I could not live with that, but I could respect the honesty, and I have. The divorce from Sarah took 7 months. Marcus and I have not spoken since the day he sat in my living room. I do not know if we will again. What I know is that 20 years of friendship ended in a living room at 1 in the afternoon, and that the ending had been earned by choices that were not mine, and that I did not cause and could not have prevented. I have a new apartment. I have new colleagues who do not know this story. I have started running in the mornings, which is something I had not done since my 20s, and which turns out to be useful for processing things that do not process easily in stillness. I run 4 miles every morning, and I think about whatever needs thinking about, and by the time I come home I have usually arrived at something I can call clarity for the day, and I start the day from there. Update 4 months later. Marcus sent me a letter last month. A physical letter, handwritten, for pages. I did not open it for 3 days. When I opened it I read it twice. It was honest in a way that our 30-second conversation on the phone after the divorce had not been. It said things about what he had done and why, and what he understood about himself now that he had not understood then. It did not ask for forgiveness. It did not suggest we could repair things. It said he hoped I was okay, and that he was sorry in the specific and complete way, and that he would understand if I never responded. I have not responded. I am not certain I will. What I have done is put the letter in a drawer rather than throwing it away, which is the closest thing to a decision I have been able to make about it so far. Story 3 Seuss Reddit stories detailed. I discovered my husband was married to another woman in another country. We had been married for 7 years. My name is Michelle. I am 38 years old. I live in Houston, Texas, and 14 months ago I discovered that my husband of 7 years had a wife in another country who he had never divorced and who had no idea I existed. I found out because she found me. She had been doing research, the specific patient research of a woman who had been suspicious of her husband for reasons she had not been able to confirm, and she had found my social media accounts and had understood from them that she and I had the same husband. She sent me a message through a platform I did not check regularly, and I found it 3 weeks after she sent it. By the time I found it, she had already contacted an immigration attorney because my husband, whose name is James, had used his marriage to her to obtain certain documentation, and his marriage to me had created legal complications she had a right to understand. The message was in careful English. It was her second language, and it was precise and humane, and it said that she believed we were both married to the same man, and that she thought we should speak. We spoke. Her name is Fatima. She is 36 years old, and she lives in a country I will not name because privacy is something she deserves in what was done to her. Fatima had been married to James for 11 years. I had been married to James for 7. For 4 of those years we had both been married to him simultaneously, and neither of us had known about the other. Fatima had 2 children with James. They are 8 and 6 years old. I had no children. James traveled for work. This had always been his explanation for his absences. And it had been true in the way that partial truths are true. He did travel for work. He also traveled to be a husband and a father in another country. I confronted James the day after my call with Fatima. I showed him her message and told him I had spoken with her. James went through the specific sequence of a person who has been caught in something they have spent years managing, and who understands in the moment of discovery that the management is over. He admitted everything. He said he had intended to resolve the situation, had always intended to resolve it, and had not, and that the not resolving had become something he had learned to live inside. I had my marriage annulled on grounds of fraud. The process was specific to my jurisdiction and took 6 months. My attorney coordinated with Fatima's attorney on certain matters because our legal situations overlapped in ways that required it. Fatima and I have spoken 7 times. She is managing a situation that is more complicated than mine. She has children. She has a longer marriage. She has legal matters in her country that are different from mine. I think about her regularly. I think about what it means to have shared a husband without knowing, and to have found each other through the discovery, and to be in contact now in the specific way of people whose lives intersected in a way neither of them chose. James is in a legal situation that is ongoing and that I will not detail here. What I know is that it is significant, and that significant feels appropriate. Update 4 months later. Fatima messaged me last month to tell me that her legal situation had reached a resolution she felt was fair, and that her children were doing well, and that she was doing better than she had expected to be doing. She said she was grateful we had spoken, and that knowing she was not alone in what had happened had mattered to her. I told her the same was true for me. We have agreed to stay in contact in the loose way of people who have a bond that does not fit a normal category, and who have decided to honor the bond anyway. I think about James sometimes, not with the feelings I had for him, those are gone completely, but with the specific curiosity of someone trying to understand how a person builds and maintains what he built and maintained. I have not arrived at understanding. I think I may not. I am deciding that not understanding is acceptable. Story 4 Marital Affair Stories. My husband told me he had never cheated, but I found evidence 10 years after our divorce that he had my name as Carol. I am 52 years old. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and 6 months ago I found evidence that my ex-husband had cheated on me during our marriage. A marriage that ended 10 years ago. A divorce that I had always attributed to incompatibility rather than infidelity. An explanation I had lived inside for a decade. My ex-husband's name is Richard. We had been married for 11 years and divorced when I was 42 and he was 45. The divorce had been difficult but not acrimonious. We had agreed on terms without litigation, had maintained a civil relationship for the sake of our son who was 17 at the time, and had moved forward with the mutual understanding that 2 people had simply grown in different directions. I had believed this explanation completely. I had told it to therapists and friends, and to myself for 10 years. The evidence arrived through our son. His name is Daniel, and he is 27 now, and he had been cleaning out storage at his father's house when Richard moved to a smaller apartment last year, and had found a box of old documents that included photographs and letters that told a story about a period of our marriage that I had not known contained that story. Daniel called me. He was careful and honest, and he said he had found something he thought I had a right to know about, and that he was telling me because not telling me felt like a choice that was not his to make. He told me what he had found. I want to tell you what it feels like to receive information about an infidelity that happened 20 years ago and ended 10 years ago, because I think it is different from receiving it in real time. And the difference is worth describing. It is a specific kind of retroactive grief. Not the acute grief of discovery in the moment, but a slower and stranger thing that involves going back through memories and understanding them differently. Conversations that I had attributed to stress that now had a different explanation. Absences that I had understood as work that now had a different content. A version of my marriage that I had held for 20 years that was now being revised in my memory without my permission. Richard is alive. I called him. He answered, and I told him what Daniel had found, and there was a silence that lasted long enough to be its own answer. And then he said yes, and said he was sorry, and said he had told himself for 20 years that telling me would only cause pain for something that was over, and he had used that to justify not telling me. I told him that the choice of whether to carry that pain had been mine to make, and that he had made it for me for 20 years, and that was not something I could call kindness. He said he knew. I am not devastated in the way I might have been at 42. I am more complicated. A woman of 52 who has built a full and good life over 20 years, and who is now in possession of information about a period of that life that changes the story of how it began. The life I built is real and good regardless of the story of how it began. I am holding both of those things and finding that they can be held simultaneously even when simultaneously feels strange. Update, 3 months later. Daniel called me last month to check on me. He said he had been thinking about whether telling me had been the right thing. I told him it had been the right thing, and that right things are not always comfortable, and that his willingness to tell me something difficult, because he believed I deserved to know it was one of the better things anyone had done for me in recent memory. He was quiet for a moment, and then he said he loved me. I told him I loved him too. We talked for an hour about ordinary things, his work, his girlfriend, a trip he was planning. At the end of the call he said he hoped I was okay. I told him I was actually okay, and that actually was doing real work in that sentence, and that I was getting to okay that was more than actual every day. He laughed and said that was very me. I said I knew, and we hung up, and I sat in my kitchen and I thought about 20 years of a story I had been telling, and about the revision, and about my son who had told me a hard thing because he loved me, and I thought that the revision and the love were both real, and that real was the only thing that mattered. Story 5 Stories Infidelity. My wife left me for someone she met online. 6 months later she called me from a hospital asking me to come. My name is Steven. I am 39 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And 18 months ago my wife of 6 years told me she had fallen in love with someone she had met in an online community, and that she was leaving our marriage to be with him. She had never met him in person. He lived in another state. She had been talking to him for 8 months, and had decided that what she had found in those 8 months of online conversation was more real than 6 years of physical marriage, and she was leaving to find out if she was right. Her name is Lisa. We had been together for 8 years and married for 6. And I had not known about the online relationship until the day she told me she was leaving for it. The discovery and the departure were simultaneous. She told me about him and told me she was leaving in the same conversation, which left me with no period of processing the first information before the second arrived. Lisa moved to another state 6 weeks after that conversation. She found an apartment near where the man, his name was Eric, lived, and she built a new life around a relationship that had existed entirely in text until she arrived in person. I filed for divorce. The process was straightforward because we had no children and our assets were simple. It was finalized 4 months after she left. 6 months after she left she called me from a hospital in the state she had moved to. She was alone. Eric had not been what the 8 months of online conversation had suggested he would be, and the relationship had ended 3 months after she arrived. And she had been in the new city alone for 3 months, and had been hospitalized for something she described as exhaustion and stress, and that I understood from the way she described it was a mental health crisis, that she was not calling it directly. She asked me if I would come. I want to tell you about the decision I made because I am still not fully certain what to make of it, and I think the uncertainty is honest. I went. I drove 16 hours because flying felt wrong for a reason I could not fully articulate. And I sat in a hospital room with my ex-wife who had left our marriage for a man she had never met, and I was present with her for 3 days while she stabilized and made arrangements to come home. I did not go because I wanted her back. I did not. I did not go because I had forgiven everything. I had not. I went because she had called and she had been alone, and because whatever she had done there had been a person I had loved for 8 years on the other end of a phone from a hospital. And turning away from that had not felt possible in the moment of decision. Lisa came back to Phoenix. She is living with her sister. We are not in contact regularly. We speak occasionally about practical matters that remained after the divorce. I think about the hospital sometimes. I think about the 16-hour drive and about what it means to do something for someone who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you are the kind of person who does it. I am still figuring out what it means. I think figuring out is the honest place to be. Update, 4 months later. Lisa sent me a message last month. She said she had been in therapy for 6 months, and that her therapist had encouraged her to reach out to people she had hurt with honesty about what she understood now that she had not understood then. She said she understood now that what she had done had not been about Eric. That Eric had been a symptom of something in her that had needed addressing. and that she had addressed it the wrong way and at significant cost to both of us. She said she was sorry in terms that were specific and complete. I read the message twice. I did not respond immediately. I responded 3 days later with 2 sentences. I said I appreciated her honesty and that I hoped her therapy was helping. She said thank you. That was the full exchange. I sat after it thinking about 16 hours of driving, and about a hospital room, and about 2 sentences, and about what adequate looks like when a situation has been what this situation has been, and I decided that 2 sentences sent 3 days after genuine reflection was adequate, and that adequate was the right standard for where we were.